Hello my dear students, welcome back to another session of Social and Political Life 2. Today our chapter is 5, topic is Women Change the World. So in the previous chapter we saw that how women are being discriminated in works. Like there is a specific rules for the women. Since they are the caregiver, they are specified to do all the household works like looking after the families. Then also looking after the elders of the family, looking after the children. And if they are working outside also, then they have to do the household works at home also. And there in the previous chapter we also found that how women were struggling for getting the equal respect like the man. So in this chapter we are going to learn about the struggle, how women have struggled for getting the equal respect in the society like the man, and what are the challenges they have faced in getting the equal respect just like the man. So let's begin the chapter. In the previous chapter we saw how women's work in the home is not recognized as work. We also read how doing household work and taking care of the family members is a full-time job and there are no specific hours at which it begins or ends. In this chapter, we will look at work outside the home and understand how some occupations are seen to be more suitable for men than for women. We will also learn about how women struggle for equality. Getting an education was and still is one way in which new opportunities were created for women. This chapter will also briefly stress the different types of efforts made by the women's movement to challenge discrimination in more recent years. Now, who does what work? Draw images of the following: farmer, a factory worker, a nurse, scientist, a pilot and a teacher. So you have to draw the images of the persons who does all this work according to you. See what images your class drew by filling in the table below. Add up the number of male and female images separately for each occupation. Category: teacher, farmer, factory worker, nurse, scientist, pilot. Then male image, female image. After you finish this work, we will identify how many of you has drawn the male image and how many of you has drawn the female image. Now, 83.6% of working women in India are engaged in agricultural work. We often see the women in the rural areas, the villages, are often engaged in the agricultural work. They help the man in cutting down the crops, gathering the crops, looking after the crops. So they work as a helping hand to their man. Their work includes planting, weeding, harvesting and threshing. Yet when we think of a farmer, we only think of a man. This is so true. When we think of a farmer, we only think of a man, that a farmer. Who does the farming? A man does the farming. Why a woman's work can't we appreciate their work? Because most of the time we see the woman working in the field, cutting down the crops and then weeding the crops and then planting the crops. But when it comes to farmer, it means a man. So this is very unfair to the women. It is 3.6% are working women in the agricultural area. Rosie ma'am class has 30 children. She did the same exercise in her class and here is the result. Category: teacher, male 5, female 25. Farmer 30 male, female 0. Factory worker 25 male, 5 female. Nurse 0 male, 30 female. Scientist 25 male, 5 female. Pilot 27 male, 3 female. So Rosie ma'am, she did this exercise in the class and then she found out this result. Let us see, when we will do this activity in the class, we will compare and see the result. Now, fewer opportunities and rigid expectation. Women are given very few opportunities, and they are expected much from them. A lot of the children in Rosie Man's class drew women as nurses and men as army officers. The reason they did this is because they feel that outside the home too, women are good at only certain jobs. For example, many people believe that women make better nurses because they are more patient and gentle. This is linked to women's role within the family. Similarly, it is believed that science requires a technical mind, and girls and women are not capable of dealing with technical things. So these are the images created by the society only. These are fitted into our mind that girls can be a better nurse because they are more patient and gentle. And when it comes to a scientist or some in the technical field, men are given more value than female, because a man can think technically very well. When it comes to the female, they are not capable of doing the technical works, because they are supposed to do work in the family, looking after their families only, and that's why maybe they will not be able to capable to do the technical work. So all these things are fitted in our minds because of the society we live in and we are brought up in. Because so many people believe in these stereotypes. Stereotypes means generalized thinking that a man, a girl or a boy is categorized in this way. Like a boy means he cannot cry like a girl, and a girl means she has to do all the household work. So this is the stereotype. Many girls do not get the same support that boys do to study and train to become doctors and engineers. In most families, once girls finish school, they are encouraged by their families to see marriage as their main aim in life. So, breaking stereotypes. Engine drivers are men, but 27-year-old Lakshmi Lakra from a poor tribal family in Jharkhand has begun to change things. She is the first woman engine driver for Northern Railway. So Lakshmi Lakra was the first female engine driver in the Northern Railway. She is from Jharkhand. Lakshmi's parents are not literate, but they struggled and overcame many hardships to make sure their children got an education. Lakshmi studied in a government school. Even in school, Lakshmi helped with the housework and did odd jobs. She studied hard and did well, and then went on to get a diploma in electronics. She then took the railway board exam and passed it on her first attempt. Lakshmi says, I love challenges, and the moment somebody says it is not for girls, I make sure I go ahead and do it. Lakshmi has had to do this several times in her life. When she wanted to take electronics, when she rode motorcycles at the Polytechnic, and when she decided to become an engine driver. Her philosophy is simple: as long as I am having fun without harming anyone, as long as I am doing well and helping my parents, why should I not lead a lifestyle of my choice? So, adapted from Driving Her, trained by Neeta Lal Women's Feature Service. So, she broke the stereotype. According to the stereotype, only man can do all the electronic works, can perform or go choose a career of technical work, or can pursue a degree on the technical engineering. Okay, but she broke the stereo, because nowadays nothing is difficult for a woman. If a man can pursue an engineering degree, why can't a woman do? So this is a great challenge by the woman. and we can see that women are more successful nowadays than men. It is important to understand that we live in a society in which all children face pressure from the world around them. Sometimes this comes in the form of demands from adults, and other times they can just be because of unfair teasing by our own friends. Boys are pressurized to think about getting a job that will pay a good salary. They are also teased and bullied if they do not behave like other boys. See, just like the girls also, boys are also being pressurized from the family. They are being told that you have to look after your family, you have to get a good salary. So this was a pressurized from the family. And sometimes his friends also might tease him by saying that if he cries or if he shows his emotions, he might be teased by his friends by saying that you are behaving just like a girl. So it is all because of the society's impact on us. Not only the girls faces problem, but also the boys they faces problems are pressurized by the family as well as by the society. Now, there is a story. Let us see. Xavier was happy with the result of his class 10 board exams. Though his marks in science and maths were not high, he had done well in his favorite subjects, history and language. When his parents saw his report card, however, they did not look pleased at all. My goodness, Xavier, you have managed only 65% in maths. Your marks in physics are low too. I know, Mama, but it's okay. Because I don't want to take maths or science, I want to study history. Why do you want to take history? Think about your future. You have to get a good job. History will not help, it has no scope. But, I don't like maths or science. Be sensible, son. Take maths and you can study computers side by side. The job market for computer is very good. So see how the boy was being pressurized by the family members that he has to take up maths because he had a scope in maths rather than taking up history because according to the family history doesn't have any scope in future. And being a boy, he has to earn a good salary. So this was a pressurized for the man. Now, learning for change. Going to school is an extremely important part of your life. As more and more children enter school every year, we begin to think that it is normal for all children to go to school. Today, it is difficult for us to imagine that school and learning could be seen as out of bounds or not appropriate for some children. But in the past, the skill of reading and writing was known to only a few. Most children learned the work their families or elders did. For girls, the situation was worse. In communities that taught sons to read and write, daughters were not allowed to learn the alphabet. Even in families where skills like pottery, weaving, and craft were taught, the contribution of daughters and women was only seen as supportive. For example, in the pottery trade, women collected the mud and prepared the earth for the pots. But since they did not operate the wheel, they were not seen as potters. In the 19th century, many new ideas about education and learning emerged. Schools became more common and communities that had never learned reading and writing started sending their children to school. But there was a lot of opposition to educating girls even then. Yet many women and men made efforts to open schools for girls. Women struggled to learn to read and write. Let us read about the experience of Rash Sundari Devi, who was born in West Bengal some 200 years ago. At the age of 16, she wrote her autobiography in Bangla. Her book titled Amar Jivan is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Raj Sundari Devi was a housewife from a rich landlord's family. At that time, it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, she would bring bad luck to her husband and become a widow. Despite this, she taught herself how to read and write in secret well after her marriage. I would start working at dawn and I would still be at it until well beyond midnight. I had no rest in between. I was only 14 years old at that time. I came to nurture a great longing. I would learn to read and I would read a religious manuscript. I was unlucky. In those days, women were not educated. Later, I began to resent my own thoughts. What is wrong with me? Women do not read? How will I do it? Then I had a dream. I was reading the manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagat, the life of a saint. Later in the day, as I sat cooking in the kitchen, I heard my husband say to my eldest son, Vipin, I have left my Chaitanya Bhagat here. When I ask for it, bring it in. He left the book there and went away. When the book had been taken inside, I secretly took out a page and hid it carefully. It was a job hiding it, for nobody must find it in my hands. My eldest son was practicing his alphabets at that time. I hid one of them as well. At times I went over there trying to remember, trying to match letters from that page with the letters that I remembered. I also tried to match the words with those that I would hear in the course of my days. With tremendous care and effort, and over a long period of time, I learned how to read. After learning the alphabet, Russian Sundari Devi was able to read the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Through her own writing, she also gave the world an opportunity to read about women's lives in those days. Rashundari Devi wrote about her everyday life experiences in details. There were days when she did not have a moment's rest, no time even to sit down and eat. So this was the story of Rasundari, who had made great efforts to read and write. She took out some pages from Chaitanya Bhagavat and also the letters from her child's book, and then she started matching the letters and the words with the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Thereafter, she struggled, she made great efforts to read and write, and at last she had succeeded in reading and writing. So, like Rasundari, we should also never give up. Instead, we should always keep on trying to learn new and new things. Like, if a man can do such things, then why can't we do? Because we are women? No. We shouldn't keep that thinking in our minds. So, next, schooling and education today. Today, both boys and girls attend school in large numbers. Yet, as we will see, there still remain differences between the education of boys and girls. India has a census every 10 years, which counts the whole population of the country. It also gathers detailed information about the people living in India, their age, schooling, what work they do, and so on. We use this information to measure many things like the number of literate people and the ratio of men and women. According to the 1961 census, about 40% of all boys and men who are under 7 years old and above were literate. That is, they could at least write their names, compared to just 15% of all girls and women in the most recent census of 2011. These figures have grown to 82% for boys and men. and 65% for girls and women. This means that the proportions of both men and women who are now able to read and have at least some amount of schooling has increased. But as you can only see, the percentage of the male group is still higher than the female group. The gap has not gone away. Here is a table that shows the percentage of girls and boys who leave schools from different social groups including scheduled caste, and scheduled tribe. Average annual dropout rate in school education 2014-15. Now level primary, upper primary and secondary. Boys, girls total. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Now primary class 1 to 5. Boys 4.36, then girls 3.88, total is 4.13. For scheduled caste, see the rates. For scheduled tribe, see the rates. In the upper primary 6 to 8, these are the percentage. Secondary classes from 9 to 10, these are the percentage. You have probably noticed in the above table that scheduled caste and scheduled tribe girls leave school at a rate that is higher than the category. All girls, this means that girls who are from Dalit means from the lower caste, and Adivasi backgrounds are less likely to remain in school. The 2011 census also found that Muslim girls are less likely than scheduled caste and scheduled tribe girls to complete primary school, while a Muslim girl is likely to stay in school for around 3 years. Girls from other communities spend around 4 years in school. There are several reasons why children from Dalit, Adivasi and Muslim communities leave school. In many parts of the country, especially in rural and poor areas, there may not even be proper schools nor teachers who teach on a regular basis. If a school is not close to people's homes and there is no transport like buses or vans, parents may not be willing to send their girls to school. Many families are too poor and unable to bear the cost of educating all their children. Boys may get preferences in this situation. Many children also leave school because they are discriminated against by their teacher and classmates, just like Om Prakash Valmiki was. Now, women's movement. Women and girls now have the right to study and go to school. There are other spheres like legal reform, violence and health where the situation of women and girls has improved. These changes have not happened automatically. Women individually and collectively have struggled to bring about these changes. This struggle is known as a women's movement. Individual women and women's organizations from different parts of the country are part of the movement. Many men support the women's movement as well. The diversity, passion and efforts of those involved makes it a very vibrant movement. Different strategies have been used to spread awareness, fight discrimination, and seek justice. Here are some glimpses of this struggle. Campaigning. Campaigns to fight discrimination and violence against women are an important part of the women's movement. Campaigns have also led to new laws being passed. A law was made in 2006 to give women who face physical and mental violence within their homes, also called domestic violence, some legal protection. Similarly, efforts made by the women's movement led the Supreme Court to formulate guidelines in 1997 to protect women against sexual harassment at the workplace and within educational institutions. In the 1980s, for example, women's groups across the country spoke out against dowry deaths, cases of young brides being murdered by their in-laws or husbands, greedy for more dowry. Women's groups spoke out against a failure to bring this case of justice. They did so by coming onto the streets, approaching the courts, and by sharing information. Eventually, this became a public issue in the newspapers and society, and the dowry laws were changed to punish families who seek dowry. Next is raising awareness. An important part of the women's movement's work is to raise public awareness on women's rights issues. This message has been spread through street plays, songs, and public meetings. Next, protesting. The women's movement raises its voice when violations against women take place. For example, when a law or policy acts against their interest. Public rallies and demonstrations are a very powerful way of drawing attention to injustice. Now, showing solidarity. The women's movement is also about showing solidarity with other movements and causes. Below, on 8 March, International Women's Day, women all over the world came together to celebrate and renew their struggles. Above, women are holding up candles to demonstrate the solidarity between the people of India and Pakistan. Every year, 14 August, several thousand people gather at Wagah on the border of India and Pakistan and hold a cultural program. So this was about the chapter. What are the challenges the woman has faced in order to gain equality in the society, in the country, and what are the movements they have taken. So I hope so you have understood about the chapter. Next time we will meet with a new topic. Till then, students, take care of yourself and thank you so much.